Hi, folks. You know, Democrats really can't help themselves nowadays. Whenever there's the opportunity, they'll find a way to rig the rules. I'm talking about the redistricting disaster unfolding in California right now. It all started when Republicans in Texas used their legal authority to do a mid-decade redistricting, which they argued was necessary to address population shifts and secure fair representation. That move triggered Gavin Newsom here in California, and he swore up and down he would retaliate, going against the will of California voters by redistricting here too. However, the problem for Greasy Gavin is that voters in California already took that power away from politicians. See, in 2007 and again in 2010, Californians passed ballot measures creating an independent commission with 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, and 4 independents specifically to stop politicians like Newsom and the state legislature from redrawing their own maps. But Greasy Gavin didn't care, folks. He immediately promised retaliation if Texas moved forward, and within weeks launched a rushed campaign, set a special election for November 4th, and strong-armed it through the state assembly. And as all of that moved along at breakneck speed and with close to zero public oversight or transparency, predictably, at the very last minute, Assembly Democrats did all sorts of shady changes to the terms of this measure. One of the changes rescinding Gavin's promise that California would stand down and not redraw maps if Texas didn't follow through with their redistricting. Well, that promise is now officially out the window, folks. So, in essence, we have another situation where Democrats are ramming measures that go against the will of the voters, presenting a clear disregard for federalism. It's classic Democrat math. When the numbers don't add up, just change the equation. What you're about to see is proof that Gavin and his crew aren't defending democracy, folks. They're defrauding it, one rigged map at a time.
It's all at stake. It's happening in real time. People need to wake up.
Oh, yeah,
we open their eyes. He's rigging the 26th election.
Like you.
Before one
You're
vote
doing
is even cast. He's going after redistricting, not just mid-decade, but he's also talking about who should be included in the next census. Across the spectrum, these are acts of authoritarianism.
You want illegals in there? Now, why would Greasy Gavin not mention that the thing he's upset about that Trump wants to do is stop illegals from being counted in the next census? That leads to a bigger question. Why would Gavin want them counted? The answer isn't complicated, folks, because congressional seats and federal funding are based on population, and padding the rolls with non-citizens gives states like California more power in Washington without having to persuade actual voters. This is the game Democrats have been playing for years, folks. Blur the line between citizen and non-citizen that cry authoritarianism when anyone points it out. What's really happening here is a battle over legitimacy. Should representation reflect the will of citizens or the head count of whoever happens to be within the borders at the time? Democrats know they can't win on ideas, so they have to rig the math. That's why Gavin frames Trump's position as rigging elections, when in reality it's about restoring the most basic principle of self-government. Citizens decide the future of our country. And this moment tells us everything about today's political climate. The loudest defenders of democracy are the very ones most eager to dilute it for their own benefit. Anyway, Newsom ended up doing a press conference before signing the redistricting plan, and here are some sound bites from that press conference. I watched the whole thing. I don't want to put you through it. It's like a mix of watching paint dry with nails on a chalkboard. It's truly, unbelievably, gut-wrenchingly awful.
Those enduring values that we just celebrated 249 years, the best of the Roman Republic, Greek democracy, the rule of law, co-equal branches of government.
You don't believe in any of this, dude.
But we'll celebrate, will we? Next year, the 250th anniversary.
What is this guy even talking about? Gavin is basically monologuing to himself at this point. You can see it in the faces of the people around him. The words float out like empty balloons going absolutely nowhere. Roman Republic, Greek democracy, rule of law. The irony, of course, is that Gavin has spent his career trampling those very principles while pretending to be their champion. California voters stripped politicians like him of the power to gerrymander with independent commissions, but here he is, meddling anyway. He lectures about popular sovereignty, yet his policies depend on diluting the meaning of citizenship, bending rules when they get in his way, and using ballot tricks to entrench power. This is the pattern we see across the Democrat Party, folks. Invoke the vocabulary of democracy while hollowing out it in practice completely. For them, it's less about enduring values than it is about manipulating symbols, using the language of freedom and self-rule to justify a politics of absolute control. And the deeper danger is cultural. When words like law and sovereignty lose their meaning in the mouths of politicians like Gavin, the public starts to tune out, drifting into cynicism, which leaves even more room for authoritarians like him to just tighten their grip on your ability to live unencumbered by the government.
First, just briefly back up and pick up a little bit on what the Speaker and the Pro Tem said, and just remind everybody what they reminded you that need to be reminded, all of us again, of how we got here.
How do we
got
get
here? Because the President of the United States is struggling. We got here because the President of the United States is one of the most unpopular presidents in U.S. history.
And what about you? You're popular?
Got here because he recognizes that he will lose the election. Congress.
Bro, you destroyed our state.
The Democratic Party next November.
You destroyed our state.
Policies. Those are being exposed hour by hour, reinforced today by Walmart announcing they'll be raising prices because of the tax increases, because of the tariffs.
Why can't the people in Palisades or Malibu rebuild?
Economy, growing mistrust, distrust all across this nation, across the board, he is failing. He recognized that. And that's why
you
he made
to
a phone
talk
call to Greg Abbott, asking for 5 seats. Can't win by playing by traditional sets of rules. He plays by no rules. I remind you all the time, it's not the rule of law, it's the rule of Don.
Oh, yeah,
And we're standing up to
that's
that.
sure
We're
catchy.
responding to that.
See what you did there, Gavin. Whoever Gavin hired to give him these little quips, you got to hand it to him. I've never seen somebody bring this level of sassy gay petty to politics the way Greasy Gavin has been doing lately. I mean, you can tell whoever wrote this for Gavin has their testosterone locked away in their mother's basement, sealed in a golden box. But here's the bigger picture, folks. This isn't about Gavin's delivery. It's about the game Democrats are currently playing. He calls Trump unpopular and struggling as if Biden's approval ratings aren't buried lower to California's test scores, and as if Gavin's California isn't collapsing under his policies. This is Projection 101. Accuse your opponent of desperation so no one notices your own failures. And it shows how far politics has drifted into pure performance, where smug one-liners are treated like leadership. It's the same cultural trend we see across media and education. Control the narrative, even if you lose reality. The problem for Gavin, though, is the public isn't buying it anymore. Theatrics can't cover up the wreckage of California forever. I mean, entire neighborhoods have burned down and people have been forced to just start selling because the amount of red tape that's preventing them from rebuilding is just not worth getting through. But you'll never hear Gavin talking or advocating for those folks. No, he's far more interested in his presidential election than the people he's been hired or voted into office to represent.
Open your eyes to what is going on in the United States
they're wide open.
of America.
I'm seeing you, dude.
That's what this is about. We're responding what occurred in Texas. We're neutralizing what occurred, and we're giving the American people a fair chance.
You're disenfranchising Californians.
Because when all things are equal, we're all playing by the same set
Ever heard
rules.
of federalism,
There's
dumbass?
no question that the Republican Party will be the minority party in the House of Representatives next year.
The level of projection here should qualify Gavin for an Olympic event because it's honestly rare, groundbreaking even. He talks about giving the American people a fair chance while openly trampling the very principle of federalism that defines our system. Texas exercises its legal authority to redraw maps mid-decade according to its own constitution. And Gavin's response is to claim the moral high ground while trying to bully another state into compliance by unilaterally rewriting California's rules. That's not fairness, folks. That's coercion dressed up as virtue. And it reveals something deeper about the Democrat approach to politics in 25. When they say fair, what they really mean is we win or else. The language of democracy becomes a cover for centralized control, where governors imagine themselves as national referees instead of state executives. It's the same pattern we see in education, in media, and identity politics. Democrats set the terms of the game, then cry foul if anyone else refuses to play along. Greasy Gavin isn't defending democracy here. He's redefining it so it always serves him and his side, and that should worry anyone who actually believes in our government.
This is radical rigging of a midterm election. Radical rigging of an election. Destroying, vandalizing this democracy. The rule of law. So I'm sorry. I know some people's sensibilities. I respect and appreciate that. But right now, with all due respect, we're walking down a damn different path. We're fighting fire with fire, and we're going to punch these sons of bitches in the mouth.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess we've entered new territory now with Greasy Gavin making direct calls to violence against his political opponents. This from a man who crosses his legs like a woman, like he's auditioning for the latest Housewives show and couldn't intimidate a house cat. I'd be about as scared of Gavin throwing a punch as I would be of my grandmother waving a slipper at me. But here's a real issue, folks. When leaders casually talk about punching their opponents, it's not just bluster. It's a window into how the Democrats justify force as politics. They frame Republican redistricting as radical rigging, but then excuse their own threats as fighting fire with fire. That's projection mixed with incitement, and it speaks to something deeper in our culture. When politics become performance, when words lose weight, the bar for rhetoric keeps dropping until even governors sound like hecklers at a bar fight. The danger isn't that Gavin himself is going to land a punch at anybody. We all know he can't throw a punch to save his life. It's that this normalization of violent language at a time where Democrats have already been burning down Tesla dealerships, it sets the standard of debate and conditions so the public sees politics as brawling rather than persuasion. And that's ultimately how democracies corrode, from leaders who dress up thuggery as virtue. Look, at the end of the day, the question isn't really about Gavin or even about this one policy fight. It's about what kind of country we're becoming when power is pursued through manipulation, language is emptied of meaning, and the loudest voices insist they're defending democracy while undermining it in practice. If Democrats can so casually rewrite the rules when they feel like it, incite outrage, or dress coercion up as virtue, then what does that say about the health of our institutions and what they've done to it? Or about how much we're willing to tolerate of all of that? Are we willing to keep swallowing whatever narrative the Democrats push our way? Or will we start asking who benefits every time we're told something is for our own good? The real test isn't in how slickly Newsom delivers his lines, but in whether we as citizens can still see through the performance and demand something truer, sturdier, and more honest than the theater of politics we're being sold by the Democrats. Anyway, you tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.